Hello once again, and one last time for today as we welcome on to the Rift. Detonation Focus Me versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. I'm Nymera, also joined by Masked Swan and Counterfeit for this last cast, at least of the live games for this split. Tomorrow we will be recapping the 4 games we didn't cover today, because of course all those UK pesky time zones compared to Japan way out in front of us. This game has no impact on the standings for playoffs. We have our determined playoff teams, and their seeds have also been determined. This is a match for pride, and it's a match for records, isn't it, Swan?
Yeah, if you had said to me V3 Esports will go 0-2 this week, I wouldn't have believed you. If you had said to me that Burning Core are going to rather decisively beat V3 Esports, I wouldn't have believed you. If you had also told me that Detonation FocusMe in 25 minutes stomp V3 Esports, I wouldn't have believed that. Nymera, that's what's happened during our last few games. So, DFM looking very scary now.
Beggars belief, some might say. But the interesting thing is, they didn't do it with the roster they've shown for most of this split. So Counterfeit, I suppose, knowing that DFM have that Juggernaut match, knowing that actually they could sub in either Arya and Kazu or Siros and Gang, how important is it for DFM to keep playing these two rosters and maybe give Siros and Gang some extra stage time this split?
I mean, for sure. I mean, you don't necessarily get a ton of opportunities to fully say, just go wild, bring across as many spare players, get them the stage time they need. I mean, you've got a very motivated Hawks gaming team here who would hope to kind of get this experience against the very top team. But for Detonation Focus Me, they've got no obligation whatsoever to be playing full force in this game, and they would still have a very, very good expectation of still taking the win.
And of course, if DFM do win this game, they match the two previous splits first seeds in their regular season record of 12-2. Of course, DFM back in spring 2020, then V3 in summer 2020. Both those teams, surprise, surprise, went on to win those splits as the first seeds going into those playoffs, even though there were a couple of bumps along the road for both those teams. So now, of course, going back to the whole thing of this game doesn't necessarily matter. Is there a question, Lexi, about how much do these teams play for pride, or actually how much do they conserve their secrets? How much do they want to show, Lexi?
I mean, this is far more for the Hawks, more than anything else. Detonation Focus Me, we all know in our heart of hearts they're going to win. But when they last fought, 26 minutes and 46 seconds is Detonation Focus Me's time to beat. They should attempt to be speedrunning this record, and I think this is something they could do. If they can beat this is great. For the Hawks, they want to not have that happen to them.
They could want to not have that happen to them. We do know now they will be Seros and Gang playing for DFM. So this is the legacy lineup, the one without any changes from spring and summer 2020. No Arya, no Kazu. And of course, this does mean that we don't know which team will be heading into playoffs. Maybe this was DFM saying, we can get a win here. We don't want to show what our main roster, or at least the main roster of the split, has been playing. Whereas the Hawks will still be looking at this opportunity, like Counterfeit was saying, to get some practice against the best team in the LJL, or at least what we think they are right now. Of course, we'll have to see at the end of playoffs who really gets to retain that title. And I suppose now we have to talk about, well, where are the key matchups? Having Seros in the mid lane with his more unorthodox champion pool, is that something which maybe Dasher can capitalize on, Counterfeit, as opposed to Arya, who does tend to have the larger champion pool in the LGL in terms of those mid laners?
Well, I mean, you're talking about teams not wanting to show their hands too much unnecessarily. I think for the Hawks, that ship has already sailed. They're very, very clear on what their general strategy is. So Dasher and Zenit carrying all the live long day. So I think if Dasher gets an opportunity here to try and dominate in the mid lane, I think they'll absolutely go for it. I don't think they're giving away any additional information here to know that Dasher can carry. I'd love to see the Victor sneak through somehow, and for Dasher to be able to dominate that. I mean, we know that Zenit can still carry on multiple different picks, so I think this is an opportunity here against a non-full strength Detonation Focus Me to really make an impression going into playoffs.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
making an impression as the IAR pops up one more time. What an impression to make there. As, you know, cameras do camera things every so often. First, it was initially struck down by the grains of pixels on cameras, and Lexi has now come back to us. And yeah, I know there's definitely something to be said about the Hawks in terms of showing their hand already. They know how they play. Last game, we saw Zenit having one of their better games on the Zaya, being set up to succeed as the sole carry of their team. But one of these things about this DFM roster is that, as we saw in their first game, they are more of the ensemble team. Every single player comes together for one of those carry performances in laning phase, in team fights, along the rest of it. So let's see if there's a weak point for DFM to have exploited with them. Where should the Hawks be targeting, dude?
Normally you go, oh, well, you pick Kazu. Kazu's not in, Gang's in. Okay, well, bot lane is now nowhere near. You just don't touch bot lane. Okay, so don't touch bot lane. Ebby is like the best top lane. Okay, well, don't bother with that. Steel, maybe best jungler, maybe Muujin, maybe Hachimacha. Okay, well, maybe Crash. Okay, don't touch that. Okay, Syros. Well, he's got an unorthodox pull that you just can't do, and if he just plays Heimerdinger, you can't win that lane. This is the DFM problem. They're the best team in the region with some of the best players in their specific roles. There is no weak point, Nightmare, and I don't really. I think honestly, we saw the Hawks try and take it to Burning Core. They need to try and do this again, but versus DFM.
Doing that against DFM is a hard ask. So now the question is about the whole showing the hand thing. If you're going to beat DFM and the Hawks have the odds stacked against them, should they pull out something unorthodox in the hopes of winning this best of one, which means nothing, or should they hold on to that counterfeit? This comes back to the question again. If they have anything to show, we know their preferred style, if they have something else to go to, should they even bother showing it?
I would honestly be pretty surprised. I mean, I think Seros and Gang, they're going to get to ideally play what they're comfortable playing on. I think we just see a lot of what we've seen previously from DetonatioN FocusMe, which is incredibly solid picks. I mean, I would like to point out, a couple of the flies in the ointment here. Up in the top lane for Eevee, you've seen them on Nara and Akali a whole ton. They have lost games on that, and still maybe. Just maybe they pick that Nocturne again, which is saw versus Rascal Jester, and they have another disastrous game. There are, it's not been a perfect season.
Threads to pull. No, it hasn't, and that's one thing to talk about. Of course, we've talked about Kazu as the support, occasionally getting caught out in lane, occasionally not really positioning as appropriate as they could do, but the team diff has often come through strong. It's not like Kazu has been without his share of heroic plays as well. Ebby, we saw what he did earlier in the day where he walks up level 1, doesn't matter what champion it is, and somehow just trades you under your own turret, gets you to miss out on your own minions. He did it on Gragas versus San. He's done that in so many different matchups, in so many different patches and metas. However, there have been sometimes where he has got solo killed, where he's gone towards that Akali, into that Nara, as you were saying, and been punished for it. Lexi, if there is a player to exploit in this new matchup, is it the kind of thing where you say, okay, well, maybe Apperman, who did well against Ebby last year, this is one of the historic matchups in the LJL. Can Apperman be the victory point for the Hawks?
Reed, bring on the on-screen graphic and let's talk about this because it's going to be important. The CSD at 15? No, Ebby wins that. The KDA, KDA? Oh, okay, so Ebby isn't number 1 anymore because of 1 or 2 questionable performances. Oh, he's still way above Apperman, though. Okay, so kill participation. Ebby normally likes to just get the most solo kills. That's why his kill participation is slightly lower. The man doesn't care. The man just AFK split pushes or occasionally will just get solo kills. Kill participation isn't anything I'm concerned about for Ebby. If he needs to be there, he'll be there. If he doesn't need to be there, he won't be there. Ebby is just a monster, and while we saw Sengoku Apperman in 2020 definitely take it to Ebby a lot more, he's been struggling here. He hasn't got the same kind of backup that he had from Blank, who's now on KT Rolster Challengers, that was backing him up. He hasn't got that same kind of synergy. Tussle isn't really doing that for him. I think it's Ebby favored still.
Ebby favored. And one thing to note is we see that CSD on screen 15.8, nearing 16. But one thing that our resident play-by-play cast Initialize pointed out in the stats is, hang on, but Ebby is tied for last in CS per minute, per game. It's 6.9 compared to people with like the 7.2 up to 8 even. And Ebby just means that he gives up farm to deny you even more. It's much like the old Nunu, where your idea is not to be a useful jungler, it's to make the other jungler even more useless than you. The problem with someone like Ebby is that he's also damn good in teamfights and skirmishing to boot. He might have less CS, but he means that if you have someone that needs to be a carry on that top side, well, they're not getting the gold for it. So Counterfeit, I suppose, heading back onto last things as well. We're slowly edging towards that champion select. With all things said and done, I know we've talked a lot about DFM. Do you think you can predict the Hawks at all, or is it just going to be a DFM win?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and just predict wrong and say the Hawks are going to win. And it's going to be glorious.
Okay. No, I'm not having my guest caster. I'm not having our assistant producer come in. Both predict Hawks to win this, and then it actually happens. No, the kings of the LJL will reign supreme, Nymera. DFM will win fighting.
Fighting, and so I see. The thing is, though, where this is all falling apart is that the person with the most correct predictions today is, in fact, our producer behind the scenes, who is Reed, who's actually predicted DFM for this one. So not even the power of the Hawks and Reed can bring us a balanced opinion in terms of this game, and we'll head straight over to Pick and Ban, as it's now on screen. Enjoy the game, guys.
All right, so as I said, this is not decisive of the playoffs, but it will be a chance for the Hawks to show their caliber against the top team in the league. Only 2 losses for Detonation FocusMe as we got our first bans coming through. Nah and Skarner. We're joining Nico as well. The Hawks, they'll take away the Seraphine and the Rel, much more standard bans.
That last one isn't a Nico, it's a Lilia, sir. But
Oh,
Nico is actually a legitimate ban against Seros. That is actually legitimate. For the side of DFM, we need to run through the rosters very quickly. Ebby in the top lane, Steel in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, Utapon and Gang in the bot lane.
Yeah, and of course, Uppermen, Tussle, Dasher, Zenith, and Corporal for the Hawks. They're hopeful they can pull off a miracle.
They really are. And a snap lock-in Gang on this Thresh. We have seen him absolutely shut down Appermen on some of his high engaged top laners before, and he's been absolutely stunted by Gang's Thresh. I'm feeling visions of his Renekton getting absolutely nullified in teamfights because of Thresh just coming in, hooking from absolutely out of nowhere, and then preventing that Renekton from doing anything. And we might be seeing that again, but we'll have to first wait and see. It is also Corporal's most played champion, the Thresh, so that is also a takeaway. Thank you over to Nymera on the document, assisting me with the stats on the fly. For the side of the Hawks, though, we've got Uria and some hovers.
Yeah, I mean, this is Tussle's chance to get in there as Corporal. We'll be bringing out the big, beefy boy we saw last time for Proud, how that can be an incredibly strong roaming force.
We're just going to see Corporal playing that Alistair. I do believe, off the top of my head, it's one of his top 5 most played champions in the LJL so far. I might be wrong. I might be completely off on the career. But Appermen, Tussle on this Udia. And it's so weird for me to see Udia get this much play, because I'm an Udia guy since season 5, season 4 even, and the fact that he was like saw a little bit of play and then very quickly went away, similar to Skarner, who was banned by DFM, and we're still in that kind of world. As it stands, on the opposite side for Detonation FocusMe, they're like, we've seen this draft before. We're going to go exactly the way that the Hawks did in that previous game. We're going to pick the Olaf. We're going to now pick the Aphelios. We imagine the Hawks are going to have to play it. Zenith's going for it. And so far, Detonation FocusMe are going for lanes and priority. Aphelios Thresh, what a killer lane.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's going to be absolutely brutal. We've seen Utapon, bring out a whole bunch of new picks recently. Tristana in particular doing incredibly well. I think for the Aphelios, a real throwback for them as we get into second ban phase. It looks like we've got some interesting choices coming out from the Hawks, going straight for the Ziggs.
I was absolutely right on the money when I was very confident with Alistair and Corporal at the moment. He's played 3 games at the moment with this Alistair. He's currently 33% win rate, so we'd love to get another win and boost it back up to 50%. Seros hasn't been target banned so far. So the Hawks go, What do we not want to play against? We're okay with the Karma. The Karma is allowed to come out. They are playing on 11.4, so the Karma won't be anywhere near as strong as she used to be, because she did get a nerf here. So Heimerdinger, Ziggs were the bans, and DFM are like, well, this is awkward. Syros doesn't play Orianna very much, if ever, if I'm remembering rightly, and he doesn't play Zoe, full stop. He just doesn't play Zoe, okay, Counterfeit? So that's why these bans are coming through. Dasher is being target banned because Syros has a unique pool of champions, but he's so good on his unique pool, he basically forces everyone to play piggyback with him. We see Dasher go for the Syndra, so they want counterpick for Apperman in this top lane, and that's why I mentioned Nico still being here, Counterfeit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's said before, it's the pick that's going to sneak through here and.
Please don't.
I don't know. I'm prepared to be baited. I want it to be true.
It's kind of good in their draft. They've got the Olaf, so this can be a part of their front line, mid line. They can work around it. Okay, so this is where they're going with it. Na is being banned by DetonatioN FocusMe, so this is like, what does Ebby want to pick? I wonder where. Oh, yes, of course. This hover at the moment is to pay respects over to the VCS, if I remember rightly from what I understood. Because so much scrimming has happened over with the VCS, so that's why Shyvana gets hovered. I'm not quite sure particularly on all of it, but we're seeing Ebby maybe have a game. He is going to play a game on this Scion. What a performance. I love this pick.
Yeah, this isn't really Ebby's style as far as I'm aware.
No, it's not.
But let's see. I mean, is this going to be a chance for Apperman to step into the spotlight a little bit more for the Hawks? It looks like it will be. Aatrox! It's going to be a complete reversal of what we expected.
So we've seen Ebby play Akali whenever they have an opportunity against a Gnar. He's been all about the carries. He wants to have these show-off performances. And I think he just saw Apperman have an absolute show-off performance on the Scion. So he's like, well, I mean, I could pick Renekton and just blind pick it and just accept it, whatever, because that's what Ebby does. He would just accept it. He could have played the Aatrox himself. No, he goes, screw it, I'm going to throw the gauntlet down, pick it, and then Apperman comes out with one of his, maybe his most played champion in 2020. I'm pulling this stat out of my absolutely anywhere. But Apperman's most played champion in 2020, I'm pretty sure was this Aatrox. I'd love to be confirmed or denied if I'm right about that stat. But this draft is definitely going to be exciting, and we're going to get a very bloody game regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like DetonatioN FocusMe, they've set themselves up in a position here where they're giving the Hawks a chance to show what they're made of. Don't play the full roster, play like somewhat off roles for all of your players and things. Show us something a little bit different, and maybe, just maybe, I may be the only person who's predicting the Hawks here, but nothing I've seen during this champ select will turn me from this path.
We will have to see Blitzcrank, son, and see if Blitzcrank is on your side. When was the last time you casted a Nico in mid, Counterfeit? Was it maybe a solo queue game?
I mean, I can't even remember. It's been so long.
It is, yeah, because this is an LJL special pick. Unless it's truly meta, Syros has about 4 champions he will just pick, and he will just pick them. 2 of those champions were banned away. The Ziggs and the Heimerdinger. The other 2, Karma, Nico. These are like his 4 champions he will just pick, and he will just be like, which ones am I allowed to play? It was very common in spring that he would have to play something a bit more difficult. I'm going back to spring 2020, where they would ban Karma, Heimer, Ziggs. They were just the first 3 bans from the other team because they were like, we can't let him have anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been such an incredible advantage to have such a reputation that the other team just says, you're the most dangerous thing in this room. We have to deal with you. We don't care what the meta is anymore because the meta doesn't matter.
It really doesn't. I got confirmation about my Apperman stat and I was bang on the money. 13 games he played on it and he got a 69.2 win rate. Very nice, Apperman. Very nice. And let's see if he can just keep adding to those stats. Obviously, he is a proficient, if not maybe the proficient, I would argue, Aatrox player. Maybe Ebby or Rayfarky would at least like to contest me on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what Apperman can show us here. I was just going to have a quick check and see, because my understanding was Yeah, the Aatrox has only come out once so far this season, if I remember correctly, and it didn't go well. That was that was actually against Destination Focus Me before. So we'll see. It's a redemption. It's a chance for redemption.
It really is. To back up my stats, Siros got 11 games on Ziggs, 7 games on Heimer, 7 games on Nico, and 4 games on Karma. All of the champions he had 50% or above win rates with. Realistically, it's about 70% or above win rates with. Nico being the lowest with 71%, 75 for Karma only across 4 games, the 85 win rate on the Heimerdinger across 7 games, and 11 games, 81% on that Ziggs. His second most placed champion, Syndra, 44 win rate. Don't play anything. Play those 4 that I mentioned, and he'll win games for you.
All right, well, let's see. For the Hawks, it's the chance to end their season in the most glorious fashion imaginable, giving Detonation Focus Me only their 3rd loss. Detonation, they brought in their subs, they brought in everything different they can, and Evie is not on a carry. This is very different to last time they played, where Evie was the main carry at the expense of Apperman. Now it's Apperman's chance to shine.
It really will be his time to shine, and what a time to do it. This is an opportunity to not only just be like, well, maybe there could be a tiebreaker match if imaginary land happened and we don't take head-to-heads happening. It's just raw score baseline. It's like, well, the Hawks would really like to win this one to prevent Burning Core from even having the opportunity at a tiebreaker match. If they win this, they could basically turn to Burning Core and go, there was never a chance. We beat you twice. We don't even have to do it. We already beat you once in week 7, then we beat DFM. This is the time to do it. And DFM going for a blue invade. I don't know if the Hawks have even got anything on this. They haven't got the wards there. They got a defensive one on the red side, and it might be Tussle just going for a standard clear, and this might make things very awkward. 44% win rate for Blitzcrank Son. No one's on your side. Sorry, Siros. No, sorry, Counterfeit.
I often get confused with Saros, though, to be fair.
Oh, so it's okay.
I mean, the thing is, I don't need stats. I don't need common sense. I don't even need a shred of reason to get behind the Hawks. They have absolutely made me believers of them. And notice as well, Tussle did, in fact, get the read, and the Hawks did get the read that it's going to be a vertical jungling swap, so there will be no falling behind, no shenanigans. So the Hawks, I mean, every moment I take where they are in the lead, and they're in the lead right now, I'll take it.
Any opportunity for when the Hawks have that opportunity to be in the lead, but Udapon is already zoning. Oh god, that hook go very close. And this is just what we got very used to, Counterfeit. In the LJL is Detonation FocusMe, especially their bot lane, will just force out anybody because they play such an aggressive early game. It gets things very awkward. It is very important though. Tussle was able to notice that because of the invade going taken extremely low. But then look at this. All the summoners for the side of the Hawks are gone. Yes, everything is almost gone for Detonation FocusMe, but importantly enough, Utapon has his flash, and that's the biggest takeaway. It's still an advantage for Detonation FocusMe.
Gosh, Dash are taking very aggressive trades with Saras there. Of course, both mid laners do have the TP to get back into lane. Something I did notice, though, which we touched back on what Tussle's been doing, is it looks like we're not going to be seeing the vertical jungling all game long, because Tussle left behind a wolf on the Destination FocusMe's left-hand camp. Presumably they're not going to go back there again.
One would have to assume that. Tussle, though, going into on Siros.
Yes, Saros, though, too slippery, gets away, and that cost Tussle their flash to make that play.
Yeah, and Siros did trade his flash for it, but that was so well played. I completely forgot. Tussle was confused on which one would be the actual clone, which is the real Siros. Who really knows? At this point in time, also, Ebby is comfortably farming against an Aatrox, which is not how this lane is meant to go. Sion is meant to have an awful time, but Corporal wants to try and do something special in this bot lane from the looks of things.
There's no jungler support from either side, so it's just a straight 2v2. Corporal ultimately backing away. As you mentioned, Edpon's got the summoner advantage, is still very strong with the 2v2. Tussle is pathing down towards that boss side, but again, they don't have the flash either. So actually making a play stick is going to be tricky, especially as we see there, that Dark Passage, the get out of jail free card for Yotapon.
It will be a get out of jail free. Gang just gets to go, hey, all right, mate, don't worry about it. I got you. Just farm up, push it up, really make it awkward. Dasher is going to start roaming and has been able to come slightly ahead in the CS advantage. Obviously, part of that is because Syros has to play slightly safer because he's worried that Tussle might come in, bear slap him, and with Syndra, that could be an OTK. Thankfully, though, he's able to just farm up. Steel is slightly behind Tussle when it comes to levels and a bit of farm, but that's because Udyr's clear is just so grossly quick. You just have to kind of accept that that's the case. He isn't able to find anything, and he's immediately recalling his Tussle because man hasn't gone back and brought yet.
Dasher has got themselves some early items, has got a tier stacking up, but in this bottom lane where there's been no buying as of yet, you see Utapon in the straight 2v2 fight is consistently winning out against Zenit here, who's been reduced to almost no mana in these trades and is a shadow of the potential power.
The side of Detonation FocusMe are very, very happy with how things are going at the moment. The side of the Hawks really needed to try and find at least some form of advantage in this early game. And as it stands, Detonation FocusMe are keeping parity, and they might even get this first dragon.
Yeah, so this 2v2 advantage turns into pressure on the Drake. Zenit has got nothing in the bank. The TP coming in. Corporal faking out the Hex Flash because they know right now Detonation FocusMe are so much stronger.
This is great because of Syros doing that. Oh!
Could this be first blood? Dasher gets it in. WP, they're pleased with themselves. There we go. Hawks get started here. Now they're in the lead again.
Kill on the board. Gold is relatively even. I really like the teleportation coming in. They used the clone to pretend that it's Ebby that's come down there because they didn't have any vision on Ebby. Well, until he immediately then starts pushing the top lane. They're like, wait a second. Whoa, it's Syros here. Oh god, we really don't want to go on to Syros because Ebby is just an awkward tank that we can't do anything about. Syros, if we get too close, obviously Nico ult and huge damage just come out. Thankfully, though, that doesn't happen, and the Hawks actually are able to find a kill over onto Steel, who was in a bit of no man's land. He didn't have any backup from his team.
Yeah, and of course, once that Ragnarok comes in, that window of opportunity for catching out the Olaf becomes that much smaller, able to remove all that crowd control. But at that point, level 5, so Dasher, taking advantage, using the ult straight away, and Syros hasn't had a chance to use that Pop Blossom at all yet.
Nope, and he won't be able to find one really until this team, or if they're able to try and find a pick onto this Syndra in the mid lane. As it is, Steel is still behind in levels. He's waiting to tick over to 6, and it's all because of the assist that Tussle got onto Steel that is preventing him from actually doing anything. But Utapon is still having an absolute time. Oh, no.
Uh-oh, Zenit, the trade for the Hawks goes appallingly down the bottom lane, and Corporal loses their flash in the exchange as well. Very nicely done. Detonation FocusMe still so strong down there. It's going to be a 1v2 here as Appleman pops the ult early on. Tussle is coming up, trying to make this an even trade. Both mid laners roaming through. Can we see our first Pop Blossom? Appleman down very low already. I think it's going to be an even trade. Appleman locks down the kill. Dasher's there to follow up as well. The Hawks got 2 in exchange for nothing. This is the time. This is the place. This is the Hawks' chance to shine.
This is such a well-played early game. I thought Appleman was absolutely dead to rights in his respect, but it wasn't going to be. The Hawks are able to come ahead with an early victory. They're going to be able to get the Rift Herald and really push their advantage. Steel has been caught out twice now, and Tussle has been perfectly expecting so much from them. They know Tussle's coming up, but he's going on this vision, so they should be well aware they don't get enough advantage over onto Appleman before and forcing him super low. Even with the Ragnarok, Appleman is still able to heal huge amounts of damage just because of how the champion works, and the moment that Dasher gets here, it didn't matter. It was all over and done with. They had the advantage. Ebby was probably going to fall anyway. It just confirmed, though, for the Hawks that no trading was going to be happening. 3-0, and now a 1k gold lead for the Hawks. Definitely something of note, especially as this dragon comes up.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage may be there for the Hawks right now, but that doesn't look like it when we look at the bottom lane. CS
No.
lead for Utapon. They've been dominating Zenit and Corporals so far, and they've almost got the first tower without even needing to use the Rift Herald.
Yeah, they've got all of the plates as well. That's been funneled mostly into Utapon, with Gang getting a little bit of it. They also have just 20 CS lead. That is 400 gold, over 400 gold in Utapon's pocket. That's over 2 waves of CS that's just somehow disappeared for Zenit, and it's gone into Utapon. Part of this is the aggression that you just get from this Aphelios Thresh bot lane, and they've really capitalized on top of it. So far, they've done a lot of fights without Utapon and Gang. Maybe the next 1 or 2 might be Detonation FocusMe's to win if they have their bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring that power out of the bottom lane, you bring it onto the map in general, and suddenly everything, it changes. Still, though, up on the top side, oh, actually, we're going to see that happen already. That bottom lane is coming right to the top lane. Lane swap from Detonation FocusMe to try and get even more plates. There's still a ton of time left for them to do it with.
They've got all the time in the world. They can just try and force this around. They don't have any teleportation, meaning that this is kind of signaling to the side of the Hawks, we're okay with giving over this dragon. We're actually completely okay with it. If we can do something around it, that's fine by us. But now look at the side of the Hawks. They're like, okay, well, the moment they start seeing the side of Detonation FocusMe rotate to this top lane to try and get some plates, they're like, okay, we need to do some trading. We need to get Shelly here. Let's try and get some plates onto Zenit. And they do get 2 plates over onto him, plus probably a third that happened earlier. This is the way in. This is the way back in and getting all this gold that Zenit was desperately leaving and losing back onto him as they do take this dragon. And Detonation FocusMe are going to be looking to try and do some more, but Utapon just got another plate of gold. This man has got so much gold on him.
So what are you thinking the thinking is here for Detonation FocusMe? You know, they've given up the Drake, they've given Zenit back some tower plating when they previously had none.
I believe part of this focus is because they know that Ebby and Steel and probably Syros, because if you just look at the CS at the moment, they're all behind. And they're probably all behind at least, well, Ebby's probably at least a 1k behind, and then Syros and Steel are probably about 600 gold respectively. They know so much of the gold is actually on this bot lane of Utapon and Gang at the moment, so let's just index on this. Utapon probably has at least a 1k gold advantage over Zenit at the moment with the amount of plates and everything else that's been thrown into him. Let's just throw everything into this. Let's let this Aphelios get super late game. Let's play protection with Gang, and let's play towards this top side. Look at this. I was just saying how I think the gold is hugely in Detonation FocusMe's favor if they keep putting it onto Utapon, and that's exactly what they're doing. Kraken Slayer just came out for him. Whether the Hawks, their gold's really equally distributed. There's no one member that has all the gold, which is normally great, except when your opponents are doing it really well onto one player. Steel?
They have Ragnarok popped early on, but they have got the backup from Gang there to make sure there's no danger of really being caught. So to touch back on your previous point, we've got an even spread of gold across the Hawks, even if they're ahead right now. Dasher, though, has been playing very confidently so far in this game. They've been able to push in the mid lane, allow themselves to roam. Now they're providing pressure in bottom as well.
This is a Nico, so it always comes back around to the team fight where it's like, okay, well, you kind of made this Nico not have a great laning phase. That makes sense against the Syndra. Syndra is such a bully in some matchups. But then if it just comes down to it, you're not able to get on top of Utapon, and the rest of Detonation FocusMe absolutely run down Dasher and the rest of the members. The Hawks could be kind of scared of Syros, especially when you consider that Apperman and Tussle want to run in, and Corporal as well, all want to run into the side of DFM. Well, Nico is more than happy for players to run into her, especially with having Thresh and Sion there to prevent that front line from the side of the Hawks really coming in, and then they just get Syros, who comes over the top, bish bash bosh, nothing else happens, and Steel and Utapon just get to AFK damage everybody else. This could be really awkward. Nico never falls off in a team fight.
All right, we get to see some of the results there. So,
That's a lot of
1,600 gold from tower plates, and that pretty much all went onto Utapon. Maybe a little bit onto Gang as well, but yeah, the huge commit there on making sure Utapon is absurdly strong. We know they've got support of the Thresh there to make sure that investment is protected.
Yeah, and this is really the awkward to and throw because oh my god, gang.
That's just ridiculous. Zenit will be forced away. As this time for the Hawks, there is enough backup there to make sure the play isn't good. But Gang just shows that any time, any place, they can put their hands on to the Hawks carry.
Yeah, that was ult for ult traded, and the timers are about the same, so that's perfect. But that's not the only thing that happened there. Zenit used Cleanse. He was really worried that potentially there's a member of DFM that they're just not aware of that could come out of nowhere and maybe do it. Pause incoming. That was meant to be for the Burning Core Hawks game, ladies and gentlemen. That wasn't meant to be for Detonation FocusMe Hawks. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. But so far, this game has been very exciting.
Yeah, I'm honestly fascinated to see, how this whole thing plays out ultimately. As much as, again, I'm the only person who's believing in the Hawks here. I think they've shown us some pretty good stuff so far. You could perhaps make the argument that Detonation FocusMe are somewhat playing with their food to an extent, but I think the fact that they've committed so many resources onto getting Utapon ahead, that's an acknowledgement, right? Just as you said, that the rest of the game isn't going well for them. Utapon is their only hope. It's a very strong hope, but still their only hope right now.
It really is. A lot of pressure is being put onto Utapon, and the fact that Syros is a level down as well as Ebby is also a level down versus well, actually, the whole top side, Ebby, Steel, and Syros are all one level down below Apperman, Tussle, and Dasher. A lot of pressure is being put onto the bot lane of DFM going, hey, you need to find a way back into this game. You need to find out how you can win this. And currently, the play from DFM is scale. Let's just scale. Let's just try and get to late game. But this is against a comp like a Syndra, who is more than happy to. Apperman will fall off on this Aatrox, but even with the Gore Drinker nerfs, Aatrox is able to go later than he was ever able to beforehand, especially this isn't Season 10 Aatrox, this is Season 11 Aatrox. He can stay around for a lot longer and be far more impactful, and we've seen Aatroxes go absolutely berserk in NA and EU, where they just end up carrying a team fight, and you're like, but this is Aatrox, I thought he was meant to fall off at 13, 14. No. Come 17, 18, he can still be very impactful. He doesn't fall off anywhere near it. And that's just what the change of these items brought in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see what the rest of the team can do. I think as we've been talking about, I think for me, Dasher is the one who's kind of standing out most as seeming very confident in a matchup that, by all rights, they shouldn't be tremendously confident in. But they're pushing in, they're roaming around the map, they're getting first to the place. It feels like, once we come back out of this pause, it's going to be so important for the Hawks what they do in these next few minutes to capitalize on the opportunity, on the advantage that they have right now.
It really will be. And part of this is going to become through Dasher, and we're going to have to discover which kind of item build he really wants to go for. I imagine we'll probably see a typical Syndra build, but he hasn't spent any of his money yet. He's still sitting on this lost chapter and Phoenix Codex. I'm like, I mean, this could go like 3 or 4 different ways. I'm expecting a Ludens really to come out, but then honestly, this is the LJL, and anything could happen. We could see a Leandries. That's viable. He has built the Fiendish Codex, so it would make sense to go there. I don't know, Counterfeit. It could be a few different options.
Well, we talked about how teams at this point, they wouldn't necessarily want to tip their hand to show any additional strategies. I think for the Hawks, they're on such a miracle run at this point. I think if you're going to bring out something surprising for your last game where it doesn't actually affect the result, it's going to be this game against Detonation FocusMe. The bragging rights you would have if you could say you were one of the teams that took that Detonation FocusMe, even with all the asterisks in the world, it's still worth a ton.
So this is, that was the reason. Utapon, I think, called for the pause because the Aphelios ultimate doesn't go halfway across the screen onto the other player's screen as it used to. It's now a fair range, meaning Utapon was like, oh, wait, seriously? Okay, well, I thought I was going to land a 4-man ult there. Fine, I won't.
Well, there is a land onto Corporal. Tussle off to the side. Steel has already taken quite a lot of damage. It looks like Destination FocusMe will be able to focus down Tussle pretty down soon, but Corporal goes right into the middle of the pack. Apo following up Dasher with the damage on the backside. Utapon's already down very low. They're all the damage on the squad and they're dead! The Hawks, they're going to win out this fight in the 5 versus 5, still forced away. Evie will flash across. The Herald goes to the Hawks and the kill as well. This is exactly what we wanted from the Hawks. We asked for it and they deliver.
We asked them, can you guys get on top of this Aphelios? Can you prevent Utapon from having all the time in the world to attack you? And the answer was absolutely. Corporal came in humongous for the side of the Hawks and has outright had a 2 back-to-back carry performances on this support, and now this man is only going to push forward. 4-man knock-up on this Alistar, single-handedly brought the fight to the Hawks and said, hey, I think we win this one, guys. Even with Siros ulting and preventing 2 members, or 3 of us from entering in, we can get on the back line immediately. And this started because they found this, onto it. Tussle is in the middle of no man's land. And the side of DFM almost go, he's standing still. Let's not actually do this. Corporal, 4-man knock-up comes in, and then the rest of the team are able to come in. Tussle is able to go straight onto the back line. Utapon's like, guys, what happened? Zenit gets 1 auto attack and is like, sick. I get the chaos, I get the kill, whatever, it doesn't matter. And now the rest of the members of DFM are like, what happened? We lost this fight and it was so good. We had Tussle in an awkward spot. They didn't go on to Tussle. Corporal was able to get the 4-man knock-up and flawless victory for the side of the Hawks so far. 4-0 for them, or 0-4 if you're looking from DFM's perspective.
Oh boy. So the Herald is still in the mix as well. Of course, you know, we're past the point of plates, but it still means that the Hawks could draw even on turrets. Currently, we've got the 2 turrets locked down already for Destination FocusMe, who are still behind. The gold lead still lies almost exclusively with Utapon. But what a difference that fight was. You know, Utapon gets killed, the only damage of the team, whereas over for the Hawks side, Dasher and Zenit didn't seem like they were ever in any real peril.
And that was the fact that because Utapon was engaged so quickly onto the Tussle and Corporal were doing most of the damage onto Utapon, and they basically bypassed most of the front line of DFM because, well, DFM's front line got knocked out by Corporal. Corporal was just like, hey, I'm just going to slap you, and I'm going to knock you all up. Tussle's like, well, I get to come back in, and then the rest of the side just get to come in and slowly grind it down. They are going to try and force this mid lane turret, but Tussle's in the background.
Yeah, you can see Destination FocusMe, they've definitely learned to respect the power that the Hawks have right now, backing off even after committing everyone. As we get back into what could be ARAM territory, the Baron up in just a minute's time. We are at a Cloud Rift going forward. You know,
Counterfeit. In the LJL, we call it a JRAM.
Ah.
You see what we're doing there? It's
I love it.
Very smart. Again,
well, that's one way to break a JRAM. It's, oh wait, I thought that was a Herald going to the top lane, but actually, no, it's to the mid.
Okay. Well, that's awkward.
Let's pretend like that never happened. All right.
Yeah.
So a small advantage squandered there. I have to assume that that was intended to go towards the top lane at least.
I have to assume so. In a similar spot to what we saw with their bot lane when they used the Rift Herald in the first time around to try and get that to get the bot lane turret and prevent Ebby from doing it. I imagine that's what they were going for. We saw Tussle also do this actually in their previous game against Burning Core. So my assumption is you're bang on the money, Counterfeit. There, it was meant to go top, but Shirley heard Tussle go top and said, no, I'm coming mid. I'm coming with all of you. Well, let's all go mid together, and refused to acknowledge the fact that all of Detonation FocusMe was there and made things really awkward. And we're just farming. Everybody's resetting. We're getting ready for this dragon. There's not much going on, but you know what has happened? Items have all come in because everyone's resetting. We're getting all those mythics in. Gold Drinker, of course, for Upper Men. Obviously, the Hex Tech. And it was the Leandries. I thought Eludens was more common. Apparently not. I'm going to see a Leandries. It doesn't matter. Both are totally fine, obviously, because, hey, strong items on carries make sense. Gale Force coming out for Zenit. I've already mentioned that Kraken Slayer, but Gale Force also coming out for this Siros's Nico. And that's something I wasn't expecting, but I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting a Nico game for my final game of the LJL regular spring split. So, what is it? Who cares?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about the items being strong on Yusupon as well, we've also got the Shirelia's battle song in there for Gang. We've already seen when they're fully committed to protecting the currently only damage dealer from Detonation FocusMe. They've now got another tool to do it with.
But at this point, I come back and I'm like, okay, I think the Hawks are favored coming into next fight. They are, but they're only 1.5k at most ahead. So that's just not enough where you're like, well, yeah, definitively they should be far ahead. They've got 2 dragons and they've got the gold. They've got, oh, they are a turret down. Oh, that's a bit awkward. If Yutapon just gets to just absolutely wail on a team fight with what he's currently got as guns, he's more than set up to win this team fight.
All right, we're keeping our eyes very closely on the 280 carries, particularly on Yutapon. It feels like with so little damage coming from the rest of the squad, Yutapon's been maybe forced to play further forwards, because otherwise, where's the damage coming from?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Dasher's still in this top lane pushing, and it looks like the side of the Hawks are like, well, we don't have to do this fight. We can't really get too much more. Let's just sacrifice it. Frustratingly enough, though, they won't be able to get that mid turret, and DetonatioN FocusMe are able to reset and then prevent anything else from happening. It looks like it's just going to be a free trade from the Hawks. I mean, getting a blue buff's nice, but it's not really the trade you make for a dragon.
No, not ideal. At least drawing even in its turrets overall, but yeah, not managing to at least take any further lead. Still, though, we've got the Collector coming in for Zenit. They are strong, as Tussle, the fortunate, Tussle the invisible, apparently, invisible inside of that Baron pit before. And we've seen, we've got 2 of the highest level players on the Hawks right now.
That is kind of insane how much experience Apperman has over Ebby at this moment in time. It's that's a lot. Like that, there is no way of understating that. Dasher also pinging over to 14 the moment that Syros pings over to 13. It's definitely going to be difficult. And the fact that Yutapon has had so many resources, but he's not at the top of the XP level. Yeah, he's got a lot of the gold in this game, and if not maybe the most gold in this game. But even then, that's not enough to really carry him forward. He's got all these turret plates, but what is that meant to do for him? He is sitting at the most in game at the moment. He's got more gold than anybody else, but even then, he's only a 1k above Zenit at the moment, Counterfeit. So what does it really mean? At the moment, we don't know because there hasn't been a team fight.
No, and we're waiting to see that big team fight come through. The Hawks, they've justified every wild hope I've had for them so far. But yeah, it's it all comes down to the execution on these later fights. When Yutapon doesn't die, when they keep pushing out damage, we saw right from the laning phase how brutal they could be when they made these trades. They get the opportunity to output their full damage potential. Even with this lead, I think the Hawks will be in major, major trouble.
I absolutely agree with you. And the Hawks could be in huge trouble if they find themselves in a spot where they can't get on to the side of Yutapon and DetonatioN FocusMe. They're getting a lot of damage, and Gang is definitely fishing for hooks.
Yeah, the fake out attempt on the advance as Corporal negates the play. The Hawks playing with fire here, almost getting caught out by the shenanigans. But for DFM, all they're doing is killing time right now. We're, of course, waiting for our next Cloud Rate to come up. But what's this? The Hawks, they're going for an incredibly early Baron. And I don't think DFM, they've spotted this is happening.
But they haven't got the kind of burst that you really expect. And now Syros is just going to go, I'm going to pretend I'm Steel and let's just send Steel ahead. Oh, yep, absolutely. Now they're going to immediately have to back off, and they weren't able to get much of this. And Tussle's in bad spot again.
Nice double stun, though. As Syros goes down incredibly low. This is presumably what the Hawks were hoping for here. It was a big gamble to come into that fight, having taken a ton of Baron damage beforehand. But nothing for DFM at all.
Resets the Baron, and that's exactly what DFM would have liked to have seen. Yeah, okay, it is frustrating that a few of our members got incredibly low, far further than we'd like them to be, and Dasher now getting this Void staff, it's gonna make things even more difficult for anyone to really burst down this Syndra. But as we currently are, the side of Detonation FocusMe still have several opportunities in that the gold lead has definitely craned far further in Hawk's favor, as it's about 2.5k gold now.
Yeah, it's not a major lead because of so much work being put towards Utapon there. As we see again, getting fed the waves again and again. Up now to over 300 CS. That's twice that of Steel on their squad. Who has been the one who's been taken out a couple of times.
He's absolutely smurfing it when it comes to his creep score at the moment. He is above, he's like Chovy levels of farming at the moment. So much is being put on Utapon to go farm. We're not even 30 minutes in, he has over 300 CS. The next closest is either Apperman or Zenit on the side of the Hawks, who are just about 50 CS behind him. He is trying to find a way to get this, and more gold keeps getting funneled into him.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's the definition of the eggs being in one basket. And Gang is the one on the thresh who's got to make sure that basket doesn't break under pressure. The Hawks trying to put down as much of that pressure as possible because the cloud is coming up. It's on the horizon. And for the Hawks, this is their chance to move into sole position.
Ebby is so tanky. He's playing the Scion. He doesn't have to care about anything else. And this is what Detonation FocusMe were betting on. They're like, okay, well, yeah, if they want to go for this Cloud Soul, we have an Aphelios who's got so many items and everything's being funneled into him. We will take this Baron way quicker than the side of the Hawks. And the Hawks realize this and have to respond.
Yeah, keep your eyes on Utapon, who's right in the center. Zenit, maybe a bit too far forward, almost gets caught out. Down to 2 health already. But the trade back is strong. Apperman is waiting to catch DFM on the outside. But no, ultimately, neither side get the main objective. But the Hawks are first to the tower.
Trying to get it down, but it won't be enough. And now they're just going to keep pushing. What can the Hawks do? They can't find anything. And Detonation FocusMe know if they keep pushing, they know Corporal can't do much more than one more engage. He hasn't got his ultimate any further, and this dragon still is up. Neither team really want to give too much of this priority over because whoever wins this will probably get the dragon.
For sure. It looks like Tussle's going to try and sneak away and solo it out. They'll get immediately caught by the ward. But I don't think it's going to matter here. This time, Detonation FocusMe not confident enough to go back to that Baron again. So the Hawks grab themselves access pass to the Cloud Soul. They're still ahead right now. Not by much, but it may be enough.
No, their lead has fallen to about a 2k gold lead. That's not great. But with this tower going down, it suddenly goes back to exactly 2.5k gold. It's like as if nothing ever happened. And now they have that mid prio. They have got the turret down, and that's the one turret that Detonation FocusMe are currently missing from the Hawks.
Yes, they'd love to complete their collection, but it looks like for the time being, they're going to have to wait, as it's again DFM making the move towards the Baron. They're certainly giving a strong indication that they're going to go back to it again, but instead, just getting the vision. Apperman's down in the bottom side, making the split push. They do not have the teleport on the Aatrox if this does turn into a desperation death battle.
Yeah, Ebby does have his teleportation in. He's also got the Scion ultimate, meaning he can just, out of nowhere, the unstoppable force into the mid lane is a very common tactic that we do see from several Scions over in the LJL. It's why it's a common pick over here, because it allows you to almost play like triple global comps, because you're like, well, Scion's technically a global in a way, and everyone's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, he can just ult out of the middle of nowhere and be there, and everyone's like, well, I guess it kind of works like that. At the moment, we've got only one global on this map that's really a champion, and that's Scion. So, Prio win DFM, technically? No, it doesn't actually matter. As it stands, both these teams are looking for an edge. We will be seeing that Dragon Soul have to be fought over for the side of Detonation FocusMe. It's fine to give over a dragon if you don't think you can really get the ideal fight, and they keep going more and more cold into Utapon. He's really craning this CS lead he's got over the members of the Hawks and trying to find any advantage he can to try and get this. And hey, a shutdown onto Zenit would really help Utapon out a bunch.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Utah may be a way ahead of Zenit, but Zenit is still farming. We can see they've got the bounty on them because they've got the kill, they've got a good amount of gold, so they're still strong, even if they're not Utapon strong. But something I want to touch on before we get into the next fight is we're seeing an awful lot of armor being built up by Detonation FocusMe. We've got Thormail in there as well, potentially building up very, very heavily into armor rather than trying to itemize against Dasher.
Yeah, and this is because obviously there is that Aatrox with Zenit as well. They're like, well, there's only one source of AP damage outside of Phoenix Stance Udyr from Tussle. That Dasher is their only form of AP. This is partly also why I'm a bit surprised that Voice Staff was the item that was first picked by Dasher. There's not a huge amount of AP, amount of magic resist. You're almost close enough dealing a huge amount of damage through the side of to the side of Detonation FocusMe. You don't need the armor pen or anything at the moment, or the magic pen. It's not an unheard of choice for a second item for a Syndra, but it's normally against a team that typically stack a lot of magic resist. Obviously, we do see Steel currently building that Spectral Cowl, but that's because he's probably going for a second item. His second item is going to allow him to get all of the healing, so it's what you have to do.
All right, so Detonation FocusMe, they're back towards the Baron once again. No, actually, I take it back. Unlike before, Appaman does have the ability to teleport back, but it looks like instead they're just going to hoof it up towards the mid lane as our J-Rams continue to be a major feature of this match. Both teams not willing to give each other the space to start getting out onto the map as a team.
Getting closer to those death timer spots now, Counterfeit, where it's going to become incredibly difficult for either of these teams to really go, well, if we fully commit, we might lose the game now because it's that deep into the game. 3k gold lead, arguably coming out for the Hawks, but it's so close, and it's because that gold lead is split between 3 members on the Hawks, they need to make those 3 members count. It's still very close though, this game at the moment. Even Blitzcrank's son is like, DFM, but it's only because this game's been able to go on for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it does, we're still waiting to see Detonation FocusMe even find their first kill in the game. It's been a very low kill game, and it's been incredibly high on tension.
We either get these 2 games. I feel like this is the LJL pulling out their LCK style of gameplay. We either see LPL/VCS like levels of just kills a minute where we're looking for 1 to 2 kills per minute, or we see the opposite and we see LCK and everything is super giga controlled. Tussle is looking for something though.
Yeah, trying to sneak around the side of the team, draws Evie in to crowd control them, but nothing further. We have got the Cloud Soul up, and what's this? The Hawks are way off. It looks like they're not going to get the Baron, and they give up the potential Cloud Soul.
And now with that done and dusted, Utapon still has all the ults for the side of DFM are up, and the Hawks are like, maybe we don't want to fight you actually. We're going into a choke point, and let's see who has the advantage.
So Evie locked in the place for a second. For the Hawks, they need to get something back here because they've just given across a major objective in exchange for absolutely zilch. Evie inside the bush will make it hard to follow as the box is drawn out from the squad. So that's a big crowd control removed from the equation. Zenit is running around the outside as the tower falls. So it's a tower and a Drake for DFM in exchange for nothing.
As it stands, it's nothing, but Ebby is going to try and stay with this team. He could have ultimated and definitely gone on top of Appaman, but there's no sense in risking everything, and that is just DFM playing around the size of the map and going, hey, we know the Hawks won't want to find the fight here. We know the Hawks don't want to do this. They gave up a dragon. That makes sense. They gave up the mid turret. Again, this kind of all makes sense. These are things, these are resources, these are parts of the map where eventually you're going to probably have to do this. The Hawks deciding we don't want to do a huge team fight here because it is potentially game winning or losing spot. We're going to wait for dragon number 5, oh no, dragon number 7 actually on this game, and see how we get on. Baron is also going to be a huge contestation, and I think the last fight might be in about 4 minutes, Counterfeit, and warm up the muscles, warm up those throat muscles, because it's going to be a big one. That Baron might be fought over, this dragon's going to be coming up, and Cloud Soul is rather good for both these teams.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, When you've got ultimates this powerful in the game, the extra burst of movement speed to follow up on those plays, it's going to be amazing. Not to even mention how much often you're going to be getting those ultimates in the first place by having this many Cloud Dragons, even without the soul.
Yeah, I mean, someone like Ragnarok, like this Olaf, is gonna love having the Cloud Soul. He's like, okay, well, I don't get tanky stats, I don't get the healing, I don't get the extra damage. Wait, you're saying my ultimate's up more often? Yes. Also, you're just faster, just in general. Wait, I'm faster than normal? Yes. Okay, that's pretty good. It's also pretty good for Tussle over on the other side on this Uria. So much happens because of the stances, because of so many things changing. This is going to be a dime, and honestly, the side of the Hawks would have probably liked to have just gotten the Cloud Soul when they could have done it. They haven't got it, so now it comes back around and goes, okay, who is able to get this final team fight? Who is able to find their advantage? Both teams want it.
You can see there, though, Dasher has been quietly building up. We've been noticed from the item selection. DFM not seeing Dasher as the primary threat. But Dasher is already up to 3.5 items. The Baron is started.
Apperman's really far away, yeah.
Are they going to teleport in here? It's going to be very close. Look how quickly the Aphelios is taking the Baron. It's going to go down. Not respecting the Aphelios burn time. They get through, and it's nothing. Again, the Hawks, they trade, and they get nothing for it.
Absolutely awful. And the teleportation coming out from Apperman to the point where our producer talks in our ear and has to unmute going, what was that? I will not be able to defend him at all, Counterfeit. I can't defend that. He just randomly was in the bot side jungle. He was coming through mid and then thought, oh, I'll teleport in. Absolutely pointless. He wasted that teleportation, and that's not going to be a TP that's up for this Cloud Soul that's coming in. DFM have priority across the map now.
Okay, I know I'm being incredibly biased here, but I'm going to stick to my guns. Hawks, don't do this to me. Don't screw up your plays. You've got the game. All you have to do is not make trades for nothing. And now it's happened 3 times in a row. I mean, DFM, they are an incredible team. If you're going to be outmaneuvered by somebody, it's going to be them. But the Drake is coming up in 43 seconds. You're ahead. You can't be pushed away from the objectives by a team that's losing.
Yeah, they're currently having the top side of DetonatioN FocusMe push in while the Hawks bot lane is being pushed in, and that's not a terrible thing. The problem is, mid lane prio is how you normally can play around the dragon, and they've got this Baron buff up for a long while longer, and look at that. Syros, every single time, he's like, I'm going to throw out a random clone, and you won't have any idea on who is who and what is what. And they're just forcing down this mid turret. They're forcing so much priority, and Zenit can't do anything. They have no wave clear. The side of the Hawks is just kind of absolutely at the mercy of them because they're so scared to go a little bit too forward. If Dasher or Zenit goes a little bit too far forward, there could be a huge collapse coming from, and they know Gang can land those hooks. Dragons up.
No.
DFM get it.
No! This can't happen! You've got the Tri-Hawks! No, they give across, and I just don't understand. The Hawks, they've got the advantage. They give away further territory. It seems like they're so scared of what DFM could play here. Admittedly, they are strong, but they're giving up so many objectives in exchange for nothing, being pushed back into their own territory. Cloud Soul now belongs to DFM. For the Hawks, when's the time to pull the trigger?
The time was before that Baron came up because this Baron has been huge for DFM. They got the mid turret, they got Dragon Soul. You can be incredibly happy with that exchange for a Baron, especially when you were, before this Baron buff, weren't doing the greatest. You were doing good, but it wasn't a point where you're like, yeah, I'm very confident
Okay,
that
here's
getting
the
engaged
commit.
on.
Effie will get pulled back into place so they barely take any damage at all. Corporal provides the crowd control. The Evie is down very low already, but charging forwards. And stop at one stop. There's the Pot Blossom. We've been waiting for it. Zenit is still up though, and as is Dasher Utapon. Gets the last bit of damage in, gets the triple kill in. This could be a disaster. And Dasher's gonna fall as well. My God, Utapon. They come into that. They just walk in. There was the fight. The Hawks wait and wait and wait, and DFM, they arrive. All it took was a single fight. The Hawks had their opportunity, and DFM took it away from them.
Thalios, how many years has it been? 200 more you need, and Detonation FocusMe solidify this game and another one of those top spots. 12 and 2 wins, matching their spring split, matching that summer split. What a performance from the side of Detonation FocusMe. And the Hawks, they showed at least Counterfeit. They're not going to be pushovers. You're gonna have to get a lot for them for a win.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to tap down my temper here because I'm so disappointed for the Hawks there. It felt like it was their game, but just I think that they're working in such a rarefied environment here against the best team in the league in one form or another. It just felt like they didn't know what to do when they had their advantage. They didn't know how to play a late game against a team that was that good.
We'll have to compose ourselves again, cool off a little bit if maybe it's Counterfeit. And with that, let's go to a quick break, and when we come back, Nymera will run us through an analyst desk.
Well, what would you know? DFM takes the game versus the Hawks, much to the angst, sadness, disappointment, and perhaps some anger as well from Counterfeit after particularly that late game. We'll get to that a bit later, though, because obviously there was a lot to be proud of from the early game. A lot to be happy with for the Hawks because they came out, some 2v2 action early, went the way of DFM, yes, but it seemed actually that it looked like the Hawks came out to some early advantages after particularly picking off Steel a few times. Now, Lexi, Steel has been very consistent this split, but he was caught a couple of times last year. We had some complaints about this player. Is this a little bit disheartening for DFM fans now?
This is disappointing more than anything. We know Steel is their main shot caller, and getting caught out when you are the main shot caller and you're getting caught out by the counter jungler sometimes. Tussle was just really on where Steel was in those early spots. And yeah, I was not particularly impressed. Though this could also be something that obviously Steel isn't quite used to not having Arya not in the lane, because obviously in maybe some of these plays Steel would call, or maybe Arya would just natively come over and assist in some of these plays. Maybe that's not something that Syros really does. Maybe it's a bit of the difference in the change. This is something that DFM can easily fix. And hey, late game DFM is still late game DFM regardless of who the nameplates are on, apparently.
Yeah, nameplates on, nameplates off. They are still the same team. And of course, before we get to the late game, once again, though, two fights really happened to really solidify this early to mid game lead for the Hawks. First was a 2v2 evolving into a 3v2 in that top side, where of course, Afferman ended up getting away, stacking the Conqueror versus the tanks time and time again, gets out. That was all well and good for them, but the first really big fight this game was around that Herald, around about 16 minutes in, where Corporal had that 4-man pulverize. Counterfeit, how important was this engage for the Hawks?
I mean, it was just ridiculous. We ended up in a situation where, and this didn't happen for the rest of the game, that Utapon was the one to go down in a fight when no one else did. I mean, it felt like this was the herald of something bigger for the Hawks there, that they could actually find a way on. But I think it's important, following on from this fight, that the kill number, 0-4, didn't change for an enormously long time during the rest of that game.
It would have been probably about 15 minutes that it didn't change at all, because, effectively things stalled out after that point. There was a good engage around that Herald, but then the engagers just couldn't find any way into the fight from the side of the Hawks, nor were DFM particularly looking for it. During all this time, they kept within arm's reach in terms of that gold. And Lexi, I want to get your opinion on how DFM always seemed to be relevant in the game. Utah was always strong, and Sion, even though they died early, just kept becoming bulkier and bulkier.
This is part of it just coming down to the pick and ban phase and the fact that DFM picked themselves a composition which is very reminiscent of spring 2020 DFM. Even if they're not able to really win the early game, which sometimes they did. They genuinely would lose the early game. Come mid to late game, they can play around Syros on this Nico. They can play around Ebby on any champion. The fact that he's on a Sion is just another one that you can go, yeah, if he just gets to scale, if he just gets to stay in this game, it doesn't matter. He can do whatever you need him to do. And they played around that. Steel was able to go in absolutely nuts multiple times on this Olaf. And they just played around their team. They just were like, well, we'll just wait for as long as we can. We won't engage onto the Hawks when we know they're ahead, and we will turn that around when we can.
So, quick stat for you. Ebby had not played Sion since 2019. He took a year off.
Sure,
so
why
this is
not?
His first game in a little while. This is only his fourth game as well, but that Sion just became utterly unkillable, and that
I
meant
wouldn't
that the
be
Hawks
surprised if Ebby...
the Hawks,
Oh, sorry.
the Hawks ended up giving up a lot for free, something that Counterfeit kept hitting back on, and the part of the frustration came from that. They ended up giving up a lot for free, ended up giving a Baron, ended up giving a Cloud Soul, but they finally found an engage, Counterfeit. Was all of that trading worth it for that one engage, which they lost?
I mean, I feel like I've been fairly clear on this point already, repeatedly, loudly, despairingly. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe the amount the Hawks gave up for free. I mean, I hope that you guys have more of an explanation than I do as a humble play-by-play caster to know what apparently the Hawks were trying to go for there, since they already had the advantage at that point and they weren't getting more of an advantage by giving up territory.
Maswan, do you have any opinions on the whole apparent advantage? Of course, the gold lead was there. Do you think that really was worth not fishing for those engages?
I think just the Hawks just forgot how to play League of Legends more than anything else. Honestly, I'm still just as confused as you, Counterfeit. The fact that it seemed like Corporal was going for some of these engages and then wasn't getting backed up, so he was now starting to become less confident in the team. He was a lot of their engage, and when they were winning that, it was because Corporal just went in and then they followed him up. He went for one or two engages, they didn't follow him up, so he was lacking in the ability to go, well, you guys aren't backing me up. Apperman just mental boomed for no reason and teleported into a fight that was already over, which was pretty awkward. And I think, honestly, the fact of Hawks weren't on the same page when it hit the 30-minute mark, and DetonatioN FocusMe saw that and capitalized fully onto it.
Well, either way, it was probably difficult to find engages. Of course, there was a sign. We talked about how difficult it is to get to these AD carries through that sign. Of course, even the Nico ult is a pseudo front line because you don't want to walk in there. It does zone you out. Either way, a little too timid and a little too late on finding that engage. The Hawks end up losing. They are still in playoffs, though, as are DFM. They beat the record equal their record at
Matched.
12-2 for the first place seed, finishing from the 2 previous splits at 12-2. We have ourselves our first place team. We have ourselves the last live regular season game played on the LJL split. So, Lexi, I suppose, heading over to you. Takeaways from this last game of the split. Hawks, we thought they'd be much better. DFM, we expect them to be good. In terms of the trajectories of these two teams, now heading into playoffs, what are the expectations for them?
I think our podcast title sums it up perfectly. Detonation FocusMe. Are they still the best team? Maybe. Maybe not. I think just as with their performance and from looking at how the games went, we'll cover those tomorrow, but they definitely look like a tough match moving forward. V3 Esports had a pretty bad week, to put it lightly for them, and Sengoku chugging along as normal, going 1-1, nothing crazy. The standings are definitely going to be very important moving forward.
Standings very important moving forward. Of course, we have our Juggernaut matchup decided between DFM and Rascal Jesters. Rascal Jesters did take a hit. They did lose to Sengoku. That will be relevant, of course. It's a good confidence booster, and it will force a tiebreaker between V3 Esports and Sengoku because they are 1-1 on head-to-head, and of course in their game score as well. I suppose it's about time to wrap things up and get a move on because we will have that game on a different day. We will be back, of course, with the other games that were played today earlier on, but because of our time zones, we don't get to cover them just as live as these ones. Thank you very, very much, Counterfeit, for joining us for these games and for the previous games you have cast with. Lexi, what a shift you have put in this regular split as well. We need to go rest our voices, need to go rest our eyes for a little bit too. We will bring you the rest of those games 1 through 4 of today at a later date. It will be tomorrow, so if you want to catch up on them, check our Twitter, check our Discord, follow us at our various Twitter @, which are below our profiles, as you can see right here. Thank you very much for tuning in. And from us 3, and of course Reed behind on production 2, have a good day.